The purpose of this video is to provide you with an in-depth look at how we can put all we've learned about shooting fast shutter speeds into practice. Think of this as basically as your assignment. We want you to go out and do this, and I'll explain at the end of the video what it is we'd like you to do. So basically what we have here is we have a series of shots taken of the same location where we have cars on a main road that are doing between, 30 miles an hour, 50 kilometers an hour. That's the kind of speed we're looking at mimicking, and we all have access to a road. Okay, if you're living in the deep countryside, there's a road somewhere where cars are going by, so we can use that to our advantage. Now, do be careful. Motorists are very suspicious of cameras, so if they see you pointing at them from a distance, they're going to slow down. I guarantee you that's what's going to happen. So a busy road, if you can, where people are just too caught up doing what they're doing to be able to see you, find somewhere maybe just to not so much hide behind, but just to be behind, say, a tree or something like that. Okay. So basically what we've done is we've maximized on the aperture, as we've talked about. This is a small number, which is a physically big hole, the best I can do on that camera. And then I am at 100 ISO, which gives me 1/50th of a second. So in your own shots, you may find that you're not getting those shutter speeds, but I'd be saying try to shoot on a dullish day, not the brightest day possible, because we want to be able to start slow and then go fast, or vice versa. But we want to have that ability to be able to do that. And on the brightest of days in the middle of summer, that's obviously going to be much harder to do. So let's keep going. That 1/50th of a second has basically given us a complete ghost of a car. Right? It's looked like it's come from another dimension. It's just the 1/50th of a second that's done that. And we can tell that it's not the shutter speed that's the problem, because everything else that's not moving, and the cars on the opposite side of the road are waiting for the lights. The building itself, they're just frozen. The ground is sharp as well. So the shutter speed itself is the issue for the speed of the action. Now for this next shot here, I just simply gone to 200 ISO. That's got to be 1/100th of a second. Now we're going to keep the same aperture. That's important. Don't vary the aperture at all. So you're going to be in aperture priority mode or program mode, but making sure you keep going on the max. Don't zoom in, don't zoom out. You want that aperture all the way through. So by simply doubling the ISO and the light not changing, I double the shutter speed. But of course, still blurred, still quite ghostly. And as you can see, the background is sharp. So again, it's not the camera, that's the problem. It's the shutter speed that was chosen. This shot here, I've now, again, 3.5, gone to 400 ISO. And you can see that we've got 1/200th of a second. We've doubled, but still not enough. You can see blur on the wheels, blur on the car. It just looks like it's out of focus, but it's not, because everything in the background is out of focus, is in focus, and everything in the foreground is in focus as well. So the problem isn't the car. Again, the shutter speed is not fast enough. I've doubled the ISO again to 800 here. Now I'm at 1/400th of a second. No, still not enough. Blurred car. Everything else is sharp. No, ain't going to work. Double the ISO again to 1600. Now, interestingly, I haven't doubled the shutter speed. Close enough. And the reason for that is that the black van is affecting the metering mode that we chose. So you remember we talked about the default metering, which is matrix, evaluative, multi-segment. It's reading all of the lights. So there's a lot of black in the paintwork, and it's just dropped the shutter speed a little bit to compensate for that. Here we're now at 3200. Remember, the aperture is staying the same. That's really important. 1/1/1600th of a second. That is getting into the territory we want. It's kind of there, kind of not there. A little bit of unsharp mask maybe in the computer later would do the job, but quite happy with that as a result. Now we are going 6400 ISO and we have 3200th of a second. Again, remember, same aperture number. And here we have everything completely frozen. So we have no problem here. We're getting now towards the maximum shutter speed. But as I say, look what we've had to do with that to be able to get us up there. And I have to reiterate, this is really, really important, is that yes, we are trying to go for the fastest shutter speed possible. We're trying to keep quality, and also the ISO, we want to keep an eye on it if we can without doing too much work in the computer later. In this case, I'm certainly going to have to go further to be able to get my maximum shutter speed on that camera, which is 1/4000 of a second. I've had to go to 12,800 on the ISO, still keeping the aperture number the same. Now you can see that it's quite noisy, so that's the cost of going up there. I'll have to do a little bit of noise reduction to be able to bring that back to acceptability, but I've got the maximum shutter speed that that camera can give me. The previous one is probably acceptable, but it's not quite the maximum. It's very, very close. So that's where we leave it with this video on how to put all you've learned into a practical assignment that we want you to go out and do, and I hope you found it instructive.